regards to the history of the Jewish and Rabbinic community, partly in Rhodes, in Greece, respectively, over here. A famous place. We've spoken about various different rabbonim of yesteryear, great rabbis, especially from the Israel Rabbinic dynasty. So I thought we'll speak about Rhodes today and explore some of the ancient Jewish community, the Rabbinical seminary that actually took place over there, and so on and so forth, and maybe explore a bit of information within regards to a few of the rabbis from the place. Now, it's an ancient Jewish community that existed, I think, at least from the 12th century, and grew significantly since the expulsion from Spain back in the year 1492. Obviously, there was an influx of Sephardic Jews coming into this area following the expulsion from Spain, and it revitalized, as I say, and expanded the community at that stage in time. Obviously, we know very much from Greece, from the Hashmonaim period. We've been speaking about them a lot. What's interesting is, when this community grew because of the Spanish Inquisition, at the same time, they will bring a lot of rich cultural and religious traditions. Now, I think it was under the Ottoman rule, the Jewish community of Rhodes enjoyed good relations. They experienced a period of relative peace and prosperity, especially during, let's just say, the 16th and 17th centuries. This would very much be a better time period. There was a harmonious, you could say, coexistence, which continued really until Italian occupation that started on May the 12th, back in the year 1912, which would then, at that stage in time, mark a more challenging era of history over there for the community in Rhodes. Okay, now, following the Italian occupation, the community faced, let's say, increasing restrictions and hardships at that stage in time. I think it was before World War II. There was about 6,000 Jewish people that were living in Rhodes, which is I'm not too sure comparatively. We can look at the statistics of the numbers of people as the class goes on. But that was the community was almost, obviously, entirely destroyed in the Holocaust, and only there's about 40 Jewish people living in the island nowadays. So you can see a dramatic downturn in demographics in the modern day. Now, the Jewish community in Rhodes, let's say, has ancient glorious history to it. And already, I think, the Benjamin of Tabula reports at the end of the 12th century that he found about 400 Jewish people on the island. And a famous Rabbi Obadiah Bar Tanora, one of the great rabbis, passed through the island in 1487 and stayed about a month and a half and praised the education, let's just say, of the island, of the Jews, the Jewish community over there, respectively, over that time. Now, obviously, as we stated on onset, the expulsion of Jews from Spain would, in 1492, let's say, the community grew as many exiles found their home on the island, and they would establish a Sephardic Jewish community over there. I'm not too sure what the community was beforehand. Was there a community? Was it mostly Ashkenazi Jews or Sephardic? Or was it just now an expanded Sephardic Jewish community? We're starting just from the point of article here on Wikipedia. Now, come on, the early parts of the 17th century, there was a Jewish man of the name Levi, and was turned over to the Rhodes governor by his business partners during a dispute. This would obviously lead, at that stage in time, that would to more, let's say, upheaval. It would lead to his forced conversion to Christianity under severe duress. Levi sought redress from the Constantinople Rabbinical courts, which ordered compensation. When his wife fled to Alexandria, the Rhodes governor extorted a bribe from the Jewish community, accusing them of aiding her escape. The rabbi concluded that while the partners couldn't foresee the full impact of their actions, and they were guilty of serious offence, and the community could find them as a deterrent. You see, there was anti-Semitism all throughout, as we've spoken about in this series when we've done various different biography videos of great rabbis. Now, the conquest of the island, it was around the time period of 1522. It was by the Suleiman the Magnificent. That's what is terminologized over here. The Sultan of the Ottoman Empire was beneficial for the status of Jews on the island, and their numbers increased. Now, I think according to Encyclopedia Judaica, Solomon ibn Verga, he was an exile from Portugal. He would arrive in Pisa in Italy to Rhodes and died there, I think, in the year 1533. Now, after the conquest of the island, the Ottoman rule was beneficial for the Jews and allowed them to continue living within the city walls, something, let's just say, and that was forbidden for Christians. Now, in the Jewish quarter of La Juderia, there were 6 synagogues that operated, including the Kahal Shalom synagogue. Maybe we'll speak about that at a later stage, as well as yeshivot. And the Jews were involved in crafts, that's including trades, medicine, weapons, manufacturing, and let's say weaving and more. I think come what 1927, we're going to speak about this soon. The Rabbinical Seminary was established on the island with the support of the Italian government over there. We're going to talk about that, about the Rabbinical Seminary in due course. Come what the year 1840, let's backtrack a bit. The community suffered from, unfortunately, there was blood libel in Rhodes, after a Jewish merchant from Smyrna sent, let's say, a broker to Rhodes. Give me a second, friends. Let me just take a short break. Hello? I'm in the coffee shop with Hila. I'm not going to be able to come. It's yeah, send it. I'll check in a few minutes, okay? I'm doing a live video, so take it in the meantime. We can always put it back. Okay, so take a picture. I'll try and check it. Okay, send me a picture. Okay, take care. Okay, bye. Yeah, sorry about that. Just a short interval and telephone break, because we're doing an extra length episode over here of the history of the Rhodes Jewish community over there. So we said that in 1840 the community suffered from blood libel in Rhodes. There was a Jewish merchant from Smyrna sent a broker to Rhodes to deal in sponges. The Rhodian Greeks, viewing the broker as a dangerous competitor, accused a poor peddler of murdering a 10-year-old a Christian child. And the police imprisoned, let's say, the peddler, and forced him to implicate other Jews in the community as participants in a crime, resulting to mass arrests of 10 Jewish leaders, including their Rabbi Michael Yaakov Yisrael. Now remember, the Yisrael family was a famous rabbinic dynasty in Greece. And on Purim Eve, after a similar blood libel on the Jews of Damascus, as we spoke about, I think in the video we did on Rab and Tebi, if we cast our minds back, I think in that blood libel over there, Sir Moses Montefiore, a British financier and Jewish activist who we mentioned about on various occasions before, received an audience with Sultan Abdul Mesid. I think that was on October the 28th in the year 1840, and the Sultan gave a firman declaring the innocence of the Jews of Damascus and Rhodes, stating that a thorough inspection of the Jewish, let's say, customs had been made, and that they are forbidden, let's say, by their own law to consume animal blood, let alone human blood. That was established at that point in time. Remember, we've spoken all about the various different anti-Semitism there was, unfortunately, in Jewish history. I think it was towards the end of the 19th century, the Jewish people were the second largest religious group on the island, with, I think, inside the community, numbering as many as 11,000 people out of 28,000 inhabitants. So we're talking about nearly 40% of the community was there. Now, after the Italian conquest at the beginning of the 20th century, many Jewish people left Rhodes in their search for better livelihoods, or there was a fear, let's just say, of declaration of anti-Semitic laws, among others to the community of the town of Milas, that was obviously located near the city of Bodrum in the Asia Minor. Now, come on 1930, the Jewish community numbered about 4,000 people out of 30,000 inhabitants. So the island would grow in number in inhabitants, but the Jewish community would severely go down by about 3 times the amount. And now come on 1887, the community then will number 2,600 out of 30,000. As Ottoman rule on the island came to an end, the Jewish community also declined in prominence. And let's say, at that point in time, many Jewish people over there left the island. The first to leave, let's say, the island for Rhodesia and the Belgian Congo in Africa, where I think the brothers, I think their names was Musa and Salmon Benatar, arrived as early as 1895. Now, following them, many other Jews from Rhodes migrated to the Belgian Congo, South Africa, and Rhodesia, respectively, over there at that point in time. Now, let's speak a bit about the Jewish cemetery over there, the history about that. I think a new Jewish cemetery, I think maybe in recent times, was located 2 kilometers south of the Jewish quarter of La Juderia. Initially, it was located near the old cemetery, close to Jewish quarter. And after, let's say, being appointed governor on the island of Rhodes, Caesar Mera de Vesci was responsible for, let's say, enacting the Italian-Ration laws. I think we've got to look at that in more detail, which would restrict the civil rights of Italian Jews, ban books written by Jewish authors, and excluded Jewish people from public offices and higher education. Additional laws stripped Jews of their assets, restricted travel at that stage in time, and finally provided for their confinement in let's just say, in internal exile, and was done for political prisoners. Come what the year 1935, De Vesci forced the Jewish community to relocate their cemetery. You can see the anti-Semitism from its historical location in the old city to its current location on the road of the Kalithia neighborhood, and forcibly required that they furnish the tombstones of their ancestors for rebuilding the palace of the Grand Master of the Knights of Rhodes. So you can see how despicable the anti-Semitism was there. Now it's interesting, at the entrance to the cemetery over there on the left, the rabbis of the Rhodes community are buried in a higher section. Next to the section, there are ancient tombstones that were, let's say, found after the cemetery was moved. To the right of the entrance, there's obviously a small museum about the transfer of the graves. In the cemetery itself, there is also reported over a memorial for the Jews of Rhodes who were murdered in the Holocaust. There's an additional memorial for the missing persons of the immigrant ship of Pancho, respectively. Now, the demography of the Jewish community there, from recent times, said that in 1887, 2,600 Jews. Come at the end of the 19th century, 11,000 Jews. 1930 would see 4,000. 1940s it will go down, and come at 2011, only 40 families in of itself. So that's a bit within regards to that. Let's explore a bit more history within regards to the Jewish community, and we're going to soon speak about the famous Rabbinical seminary in Greece. That was. Who was the rabbis of Rhodes? And I think the first rabbi was someone named Rabbi Chaim ben Menachem Al-Ghazi. He was the author of the Torah colossal book called the Ben Chayi. Then Rabbi Moshe Yisrael, most famously, he was on a journey, I think, especially between the years famously 1727, 1731. I think he'll be the rabbi of Rhodes between the years 1713 to 1736. Now, Chacham Ezra Malki, another rabbi we've spoken about on the series, he would have the premiership, the chief rabbi role, between 1752 to 1768. Another rabbi, Rabbi Shmuel Yedidia Tarika, he would be a rabbi at one point in time after that. I'm not too sure the exact years, so please, if anyone knows, let me know, but he would be a window of time. Rabbi Avram Alevi, I'm not too sure when he started, but I think he will leave his tenure as a rabbi in the year 1813. Rabbi Chaim Yehuda Yisrael, I think he's also from the rabbinic dynasty of the Yisrael family. He would be between the years 1815 to 1821. Then, also Rabbi Michael Yaakov Yisrael. He'll be the rabbi of Rhodes, also most notably, as we said before, during the time period of the blood libel. He will be between the years 1821 to 1833. Then, will be followed by Rabbi Raphael Yitzchak Yisrael, nearly 50-year tenure as a chief rabbi of Rhodes. He would now actually later on become the Sephardi chief rabbi of Jerusalem, a very prominent position. So you can see, Rhodes over here is producing chief rabbis of Israel. He would be between 1833 to 1882. Now again, another rabbi from the Yisrael family would take the premiership between 1885 to 1891. His name was Rabbi Rachamim Chaim Yehuda Yisrael. Then Rabbi Shabtai Halevi will be the head rabbi from 1891. I'm not too sure until when exactly. Then Rabbi Moshe Yehuda Franco between 1896 to 1911. And most noticeably, Rabbi Franco will become the 33rd Rishon LeZion of Israel. So you can see Rhodes is really there up there on the Jewish map, let's just say, of world Jewry. So now next up, Rabbi Nissim Yehuda Danon. I'm not too sure the years he would be the chief rabbi of Rhodes, but he would be the rabbi of Rhodes during the Italian occupation in 1912. And once again, his brilliance in Rhodes would award him to take over Rabbi Yehuda Franco as a 34th Rishon LeZion, a chief rabbi of Israel. Very, very prominent position. Now, Rabbi Reuben Eliyahu Yisrael, I think would be from 1921 to 1933, and he will be the last rabbi of the Rhodes from the Yisrael family. It's interesting. What was a prayer right over there? There was a famous siddur, Zechut Yosef, which is, let's say, the prayer, the liturgy of the Jewish community of Rhodes. It's slightly different, reported over, from the Sephardic liturgy in of itself. Let's explore more now within regards to the Rabbinical Seminary. There's a lot chronicled over about the Rabbinical Seminary itself. It was a famous place. We've actually spoken about it on other videos in this series already about the Rabbinical College. I think there's a book that was actually written, if I'm not mistaken, from Aaron Rodrigo. The Rabbinical Seminary, let's say in Italian Rhodes, between 1928 to 1938. It will last for 10 years, but it would be a significant place. I'll say what the preface of his book says. I will explore a bit more. The Italian fascist government, he addresses, of the island of Rhodes, established a rabbinical seminary in 1928. The aim was not only to train rabbis, giving them a modern education, but also to create, let's just say over here, create vectors of Italian influence in the Sephardic communities, where the rabbis would assume duties only once they had graduated. This is what the preface is saying. The establishment of this institution was a response to the acute crisis in education and formulation of modern rabbis, especially chief rabbis, among the Sephardi of the Levant. Now, the new seminary, let's just say, relied on the financial support of Italian government and on the soldiers from the Jewish communities. On the philanthropists of the Jewish communities. The seminary, I think, closed because of financial difficulties in 1938. So it will operate for 10 years and will be hugely beneficial, as we'll see. And at the same time, I think there was anti-Semitic legislation was actually in place in Italy. Now, I think it was opened with great fanfare on the island of Rhodes, which was under the Italian rule at that point in time. This, let's say, institution lasted 10 years, largely unknown in general Jewish historiography, but we're going to make it known over here. And there's books about it also. The circumstances of its founding, he writes down, its trajectory during its existence are highly unusual, emerged as a result of the efforts of someone of the name Mario Lago, who was an Italian governor of the island over here. That's what the preface is actually stating over within regards to him. Mario, I don't know much information about him. He was an Italian governor on the island who aimed to create an establishment that would become a prime vector for the spread of Italian influence among Sephardic communities in the Middle East and Southern Europe. So remember, various different people come in with their own projects, schooling projects, seminary projects, to bring about their own country's influence, especially most notably the Alliance school system, which we've spoken about extensively in some of the rabbis in this series. Now, that's a preface to the book. I'd recommend everyone to look more into that. Now, I think on the website itself, there's more information. I think it was called the Kahal Kadosh, if I'm not mistaken, this seminary of Rhodes. And obviously it was finished before the Second World War. A chief rabbi was assigned to lead the rabbinical authorities. For centuries, a small Sephardic community of Rhodes was fortunate in having a number of additional religious scholars. However, there are many rabbis and, let's just say, chachamim in Rhodes to serve the community. Rhodes was also known for its traditional observance of Judaism. I think from obviously 1927 to 1928, we'll see the Rabbinical College, which served the Aegean Sea area, I think it was actually located in. The Jewish communities, let's say, of the Ottoman Empire operated as self-governing bodies known as millets. The Jews of Rhodes organized and conducted their colonial life according to the teachings of the Jewish tradition. Now, because they were so involved with the Jewish law and custom, it was necessary, let's just say, at that stage in time, for them to have, let's say, teachers and scholars who could interpret, clarify requirements of these laws. Consequently, the rabbinic authorities were held in high regard and high respect at that point in time. So we've spoken about that before. So let's now speak a bit about the chief rabbi of Rhodes between the year 1922 to 1932 was a man named Rabbi Reuven Eliyahu Yisrael. He was a 12th descendant from the same religiously prominent family to serve as rabbis over there. A section that I think will last over 200 years, this rabbinic family. Now, Rabbi Yisrael devoted a great part of his life to the translation in Ladino, in Judeo-Hispanic, of Tehillim, Psalms, Proverbs, Mishlei, poems and religious works such as Kriyat de Yitzchak, this is sacrifice of Isaac, and the Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers. That'll be another colossal work of his that will be actually written at that point in time. There was another rabbi between 1936 and 1939, Rabbi Michel al-Bajli. He served as a chief rabbi. He eventually left Rhodes to serve the Jewish community in the United States of America. That will be the next rabbi, let's just say, that will take a prominent position over there. Let's explore a bit more within regards to the history of the chief rabbinate over there. Okay, who else was a rabbi? So there was a rabbi of the name. There will be 4 rabbis that would serve during the early part of the 20th century. Also, before Rabbi Reuven Eliyahu Yisrael, there was 3 rabbis. Rabbi Chilebi Nisim Kodron. I don't know much about him. I'd love to know more. Rabbi Yehuda Moshe Franco, who said was, I think, the 33rd Rishon LeZion. Rabbi Yaakov Kapuya was also, obviously, Rabbi Reuven Eliyahu Yisrael will become the next one, according to this article. Okay, for centuries, the Jewish community of Rhodes, let's just say, held important position both religiously and geographically. It was home to the Romaniot Jewish community and later to the Sephardic Jewish community. It was an in-between position, let's just say, for various Jewish communities of the Aegean Sea, and Europe to the Holy Land. It also developed, let's say, an increased measure of importance relating to questions, responsa, for interpreting Jewish laws and practices. Now, I think, come 1928, the Rabbinical College was established as a natural need for the development of a sense of spiritual learning. The school attracted professors and students from several countries and earned an international reputation. Its graduates, let's say, had played over here important roles in several Jewish communities. Originally, the Rabbinical College was located in the old city of Rhodes in the Jewish Quarter. Later, it moved to the larger premises in the, let's say, the new city of Rhodes. Now, come 1938, the college was closed down when anti-Jewish laws, let's say, were passed by the governor of Rhodes. In its relatively short existence, it had become one of the leading rabbinical seminaries among Sephardic communities over there. Now, students and professors, there's a famous picture of the Rabbinical Academy also, which I recommend everyone to do. There was a 1934 Rabbinical College of Rhodes picture that will come about, which will include Albert Frintz, Jacques Tarbulus, I'm not too sure if these were rabbis or not, Moise Capilouto, Herzl Cohen, Raphael Capilouto, Chaim Menachem Moise Yisrael, Aaron Angel and Moise Levy. There was in the second row of this picture, Henry Camhi, David Harari, Professor Calabro, Professor Bergman, Professor Marcus, Michel and Jacques Camhi. I'm not sure Michel's last name. Silis, I'm not sure. So forgive me if I'm wrong. Also on the front row will be Samuel Levy, Samuel Cohen, also will be on the front row, Professor Berger, Director Pacifi, Professor Azus, Robert Hanan, and Haim Abulafia. They're possibly from the famous rabbinic dynasty of the Abulafia family. Now, in the seminary itself, there would be a study room of the Rabbinical College. Now, this was a time, let's say, when the Italian government was tolerant to Jewish activists. I think there was a reading table, a famous reading table there known as a teva. It was used for students of religious study over there. There was professors sitting and studying over there. And some of these professors were Mohels also, most notably. And we have to point that also. Let's explore a bit more within regards to there was different locations at different levels of times within regards to the Rabbinical Seminary. I think for a few years, the college was housed in a building built by the Crusaders, the Hospice of the Saint Catherine. Then the Rabbinical College will be located in new city of Rhodes, and the Asian Sea in the background. That was the second time. And then I think the last location of the college was located in New City, if I'm not mistaken, over there. And the 1934 list of rabbinical students of Rhodes and their city of origin, who did they include? Rabbi Chaim Abulafia, he will become, I'd assume all of them had rabbinical ordination. He was from Izmir. Rabbi Aaron Angel from Burgas. Rabbi Jacques Camhi from Alexandria. Rabbi Moise Capilouto, the island of Kos. Rabbi Raphael Capilouto was from Rhodes, respectively. Also, another Rhodes-born rabbi was Herzl Cohen. Rabbi Samuel Cohen from Izmir. Rabbi Albert Frintz from Adrianopole. Rabbi Robert Hanan from Rhodes. Rabbi David Harari from Alexandria. Then it will be Rabbi Moise Ayakoel from Alexandria once again. Rabbi Mois Israel. Possibly, I wonder if he's from the Yisrael Rabbinic dynasty. I'm not too sure about that, but if anyone knows, please let me know. He was from Rhodes. Rabbi Moshe Levi was from Rhodes. Rabbi Henry Kemi was from Cairo. Rabbi Samuel Levi was from Rhodes. Rabbi Chaim Menashe was from Rhodes also. Now, Rabbi Morris Romano, remember the Romano was, I think, also had various rabbis from Sarajevo, from Bosnia. Rabbi Michel Sidis was from Rhodes also once again. Now, most notably, the funeral of the chief rabbi at the time, Rabbi Reuben Eliyahu Yisrael, was in 1932. There's a map here on the Rhodes Jewish Museum website explaining the famous rabbinic dynasty of the Yisrael family, especially from the 1500s, 1700s, which was 6 generations. We're not going to go through it now. I think it starts from Rabbi Eliakim, Rabbi and Benjamin Yisrael, before 1550. This will go. I will go on generations, including Rabbi Yisrael Benjamin, Rabbi Benjamin Yisrael, Rabbi Avram Yisrael, Rabbi Menachem Crespin, various rabbis, generations. Hanan Chabib, Rabbi Yitzchak Crespin, Rabbi Moshe Yisrael. I'm just going down generations. Rabbi Chaim Abraham Avram Yisrael, Rabbi Mordechai Crespin. So the Crespin and the Yisrael family will go on. That's the first map. I think there's another map that progresses. It's not so clear to me on that also. Now there's an interesting article also on the Jewish Telegraph Agency. There was one time a rabbi of Rome visited the Rhodes Rabbinical Seminary, and it was in a headline. I think Dr. David Prato, who was a chief rabbi of Rome at one stage in time, he visited most notably the Rabbinical Seminary on the island, which was established in 1927 to, let's say, train rabbis and religious teachers for Jewish communities in the Eastern Mediterranean area. I think at that stage in time, in 1936, when the article was written on December 23rd, it had 20 scholars from Egypt, Bulgaria, Turkey, and Greece. That was the places, as we stated. And Rabbi Prato was a guest of the Italian governor, Mario Lego. He was accompanied on his visit, most notably to the island, by Italian Education Minister De Vichy, who we mentioned about before, who was slated to, at that point in time, was slated at that stage in time to have succeeded as a governor from Lego. And he would most notably address at that point in time the students on the religious liberty. Rhodes had a Jewish population, I think at that stage in time, 5,000 people. So very interesting. It was a special edition. I thought we would talk about the community of Rhodes. Friends, we're a community here. We're learning about famous rabbis of yesteryear. If you descend from any of the great rabbis we're speaking about here, please send me an email. I'd love to hear more information. We have already covered on this series a staggering 1,200 rabbis already in this phenomenal series. We're going from strength to strength at the moment. We're nearing 7,000 subscribers, which is like the most phenomenal achievement. So we can't do this without you. Please subscribe now to the channel. We like to do these interesting videos in other interesting places. I'm recording this from IKEA at the moment in the city of Bet Shemesh in Israel. So it's the only place you'll get not just get Torah content, but you'll get to see someone moving about and sharing information. Also, please subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and everything else. And wishing you all a fantastic day. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching, and be well.